curious to hear your story, where you grew up. You said you're British, and how did you get from, I mean, just growing up, learning to want to be a philosopher? That always fascinates me, the people that want to be philosophers. But then to write a book on, I mean, as the title is, biblical critical theory. I know there's a lot there, but give us a little bit of insight into your background and your faith.
Well, I didn't grow up as a Christian in the early years of my life. I guess I would have called myself normal, not even an atheist. Like, Christianity wasn't even an option. It was, of course, there's no God. That's ridiculous. And I was happy. Like, there was no God-shaped hole, to use another of Pascal's images. That was like, this is just life as it is, and I'm enjoying mine. Thank you very much. I don't need anything else. And the short version of a much longer story is that a trip to the battlefields of the First World War with my school at the time woke me up to bigger questions, not to God at that stage necessarily, but I was invited on that trip to go along to church by a friend of mine. So I went along. You do that sort of thing when you're 15, not expecting anything particularly to change in my world, but, you know, she was a good friend, and so we went along. And then over the course of, I guess, about 2 years, I got to the point where I couldn't walk away from Christianity. I don't think I was a Christian yet, but there was something about the way that Christians loved each other and something about Jesus in the Bible that I didn't have categories for, I couldn't explain. Anyway, I became a Christian just after that time. And I guess even before that, I was really interested in big questions. That's probably one thing that drew me to Christianity. And that's also why I love philosophy. People say, don't they, sometimes that Christianity and philosophy are in, you know, conflict, but I've always found a real kinship between them, because they're two of the groups of people, two of the very few groups of people in our society who are actually asking the big questions and are not just distracting themselves, as Pascal would put it, you know, on a daily basis, but are stopping to think, hey, what is this all about? What is the meaning of this thing that we call life? And I love that. And that's, I think, why I love the French philosophers. So there's a very caricaturally Anglophone way of doing philosophy, which is you break things down and then analyze them, and you're very careful, and, you know, you proceed very cautiously. And then there's a French way of doing philosophy, which is you grab yourself an espresso, you sit in the terrace of a cafe, you know, you open your notebook and you write the title Life, you go for it. You know, what is this all about? And that's the sort of philosophy that I love. You start with a big question, start where you are with existence, and say, what is this all about? And I love it. I love following people as they think through those sorts of questions. So, you know, most philosophers I read, I don't agree with, but it's really interesting seeing how they piece things together. You know, how they try and justify their position, what arguments they put forward, what they think's worth looking at and talking about out there in the world, and just to put yourself in someone else's shoes for a few hours and walk around and try and get a sense of what the world looks like to them. I think, you know, if I didn't do philosophy as my day job, it's just a really pleasant pastime as well. It's really fascinating trying to think your way into how other people see the world. And I suppose that's where my interest in philosophy comes from. And then, of course, you know, you've got to write books about it in order to sustain an academic career. So that's what I do.